So basically what we've been doing as a theme to sort of give us some structure to the classes on a Saturday. So we've been looking at a Buddhist teaching that's very old, which is Sila, Samadhi and Pragma. So this is a way of covering the whole of the Buddhist teachings. So Sila is ethics, yeah, it's like basically, which is largely more to do with cause and effect. Yeah, it's not the idea of punishment. It's the idea if I do this, then this is what naturally happens. Yeah, and reflecting on that process. Yeah, what do I want to do? What do I not want to do? What do I want to say? What do I not want to say? What do I want to think? And what do I not want to think? Yeah. So we've had a big chunk of time on ethics, and we're currently doing Samadhi, which is meditation. Yeah. So meditation is a huge category of experience. Yeah. But in this context, it's about how we might think about working directly on the mind. Yeah? So if you know anything about Buddhism, one of the things that Buddhism's very big on is change. Things change. Yeah? And they change whether you like it or not, whether you put effort in or not. Things just change. Yeah? You can put energy in with intent. Yeah? If you put your actions behind a purpose, yeah, then you can begin to transform yourself purposefully. Yeah? The most direct way of doing that is meditation, and when we're engaging with meditation in that way, that's what we'd call samadhi. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of working. When people say they're working on their meditation practice, that's what they mean by samadhi. Yeah. There might be other people who meditate for other reasons. There might be some people here this morning who've just heard, well, meditation's going to just help me feel more relaxed and more calm. Yeah. That's a completely valid reason to join in and meditate. Yeah. It's not necessarily what we mean by samadhi. I think in one way samadhi is probably the easiest way to start getting interest in samadhi as an aspect of meditation is, what am I learning about myself? Even if I've had the most awful meditation that feels like it's been agony, yeah? It's like, have I learned anything about myself? Yeah? And if you can't learn anything else, I suggest what we can always learn is, how can I be with myself while this is happening, while I'm experiencing this? How can I be with myself while I'm having this experience? Is always something we can learn. Yeah. So, Vajramitra is going to be giving his take on Samadhi later, after the break. Yeah, we've got some empty spaces, but I think we're almost there, aren't we, in terms of actually... Buzz has just gone again, so don't start meditating just yet, because we're going to get interrupted. Okay. Nevertheless, that's okay, because I need to introduce the meditation practice we're going to be doing. So we teach two meditation practices. Triratna Buddhists do two meditation practices mainly. So the mindfulness of breathing, welcome, find a space somewhere. The mindfulness of breathing, where we use the breath as a focus to work with and around. Yeah. Today what we're going to be doing is something called the metta bhavana. And the metta bhavana literally translates as the cultivation of universal loving kindness. Yeah. So universal loving kindness is a bit of a mouthful. That's why we tend to use the word metta. Basically, the invitation there is we're using the word that the Buddha would have used, mainly because actually there isn't really a translation into English. Yeah. So what we want you to do is to stay curious about, well, what is this thing called metta? Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the direction of those words I've just used, loving and kind. Yeah, and there's a little bit more to it. We don't really have a translation that fits perfectly into English. Yeah, so if we keep the word, that keeps us curious, keeps us interested. What am I really trying to cultivate here? What am I really trying to imagine? And on a very simple level, without being simplistic, we're wishing another person well. Yeah. So the wishing well is important because it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily feeling good about that person right now. You know, when I bring that person to mind, I might have all sorts of emotional responses and all sorts of thoughts and memories and associations that could be quite complicated. Yeah? That doesn't get in the way of me wishing that person well. You know, what I feel about them isn't the same as what I wish for them. Yeah? And it's not like a magic spell, it's just an intention. Yeah, it's not because I'm sitting here chanting Om and wishing them well that suddenly their life's going to become wonderful. It's more like I'm trying to get in touch with what's my intention when I meet this person. What's my basic orientation? I think one of the words that in English language that helps us, that's been used quite a lot in a political context, but I think has a much broader range to it, is the word solidarity. Yeah? Can I feel some solidarity with this other person? Can I get some sense that their basic struggles, in essence, are very similar to my own? Yeah? And that for any other human being, I'd basically wish that they had somewhere warm and dry, somewhere safe to call their home, that they had some food regularly, and that they were healthy, and they had one or two people at least in their life who cared about them. I think those are basic things that we can wish for any human being. And they're huge if we really get in touch with that sense of that well-wishing and really allow ourselves to open up to it. It's a very powerful experience for ourselves and anyone we then meet from that place. Regardless of how we feel about them, regardless of what memories we have about them. So sort of a both and in there. So the way we do this, I'm going to suggest, I'm going to start you off with a body scan. So we just spend some time just being with ourselves and being aware of the sensations in our body and supporting ourselves to begin to feel into how am I right now. And the invitation will be just to notice your sensations, whether they're painful, pleasant, or just neutral. And that's usually enough for your body to start responding. And your body will start to have a natural, spontaneous response of beginning to relax, let go, and open up. When we're thawing out or relaxing or calming down or whatever else we imagine, there might be some surprises. If you imagine coming in from somewhere that's icy cold, and you've been outside for a very, very long time, your hands might have gone numb. You might not notice how cold your hands are until you come into the warm space. Sometimes thawing out can be uncomfortable. So sometimes actually relaxing and letting go, sometimes if we let ourselves feel our feelings, there might be something that starts to happen that's surprising, maybe uncomfortable. And actually if we lean into that and allow it, that could be a process of thawing out. So it's really important that we don't cling on to expectations of what should be happening in our practice. Just being curious and interested in what is happening. So we'll go through from toes up to the top of our head, down our arms, down the front of our bodies. And then we do the practice in 5 stages of metta. The first person we wish well and happiness towards is ourself. In the second stage, we're going to be wishing a good friend. Whoever comes to mind. I suggest we just trust whoever that is. The traditional teaching is somebody who's not the same somebody who is the same gender, somebody who we wouldn't be sexually attracted to, somebody who's still alive and basically who we don't have that much of a complicated connection with. Trying to keep the metta and the friendliness as simple as possible. In my experience, that's quite unusual that it's that simple, so I just trust whoever turns up first and do the practice with that person. It's myself, second stage a good friend, third stage a neutral person. Somebody who's part of my life, somebody who's real for me, but somebody I don't have strong feelings for either way. Could be the person at the supermarket or the cashier, or somebody else maybe who we work alongside but we've never had time to have a conversation with. That sort of person. And in that stage we're looking for a bit of interest. I might not know much about this person, but can I get interested enough in them as a real person who I'm wishing well. In the fourth stage traditionally you pick an enemy. What that means is somebody who's actually part of your life, no mythical figures or historical figures who you've never actually met, it's someone who's real for you, and it's somebody who you find difficult, Doesn't really matter how they're responding back, It's about your difficulty and what you're finding difficult about this person. If you're new to the practice, just pick someone who's a bit irritating, If you've been doing the practice for 3, maybe 6 months, you know who it is, So just sit down with them in your practice and just be aware of them. Notice what your response is as they turn up. And again, just be with that experience of how is it to be with this experience? If I can't get any further, How is it to just kind of bring this person to mind? And maybe you will, maybe you won't, find some space to wish them well and see how that goes. And then in the last bit of the practice, we bring all those people together and we try and equally wish them all well. So that gives you a bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing, and it's hopefully given everyone time to arrive as well. So for people who've just arrived, I will be leading us through the practice. You haven't missed anything as such. Yeah? I just like to give people a bit of a heads up to what's going to be happening while they've got their eyes closed. Okay, so Kusala will join us when he's ready. I think that is everyone now, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so just check your posture. Just notice how you are. Notice if you feel in contact with the ground or the seat underneath you. Yeah. If you're going to be sitting like this for the next half an hour, 40 minutes, what's your body saying in response to that? Are you feeling grounded and connected? Yeah. I'd also suggest if you do find you need to move, sometimes we do need to move when we're sitting, just be really straightforward and practical about it. Yeah, sometimes we need to move, particularly if you've got a sharp pain somewhere. That's probably a sign your body's saying move. This isn't okay, particularly in your knees or in your ankles. Yeah. So if you need to, maybe lay down or just find somewhere where you can prop your back up a bit more firmly. Okay. So you can do this practice with your eyes open or closed. And you might want to carry on wearing your mask just to remind people in the room, you don't need to wear your masks while you're in your seat, if that's what you choose to do. So just noticing how it is to be in the room. Allowing your other senses to start to kind of help you arrive here, right now. Maybe there are sounds, maybe there are smells. Maybe you can get a sense of the breeze or the draft blowing around the room. Maybe these things help you arrive and be here in this place. Just getting a sense of how am I breathing right now? Just noticing it, not trying to change anything about my breath, just noticing. Noticing if the breath's in the top of my chest, maybe more in the bottom of my lungs, maybe even some movement in my belly. Wherever I find my breath, that's okay. And finding your sitting bones. And moving down your legs and finding your feet. Beginning to explore how your feet are. Finding your toes, the ball of your foot and the heel of your foot. And feeling inside your feet. The body is solid. We are made of flesh, blood and bone. And just noticing sensations. That's usually enough. Maybe some things feel pleasant. Maybe some sensations feel unpleasant. And maybe there are others that it's just hard to make your mind up about. They're just there, they're just neutral. And that's usually enough for something to start to happen. So feeling into your ankles, shin bones and calf muscles, exploring your knees, thigh bones and thigh muscles, finding your hips and your pelvis. Allowing a sense of how your bones feel long and your joints can feel open and spacious. Really trusting how my body supports me and connects me to the ground. Sometimes people like images, so the sense of the roots of a tree, as if the bottom half of your body is rooted into the ground. And as the roots of the tree reach down into the ground and support you, in the same way as for a tree, something nourishing comes back through these roots. We receive something. The more we trust the ground underneath us, the more something returns to us. Sometimes if we're feeling ungrounded, this is where we need to go. Go deep into the ground, reach really far down, feel the connection underneath us. Finding your tailbone, the bottom of your backbone, the bottom of your spine. And allowing this connection to begin to connect you with your spine as it gently rises up and follows the natural curve. We're not supposed to sit bolt upright, it's more like a very gentle S shape. Exploring your lower back behind your kidneys. Your middle back, either side, spleen and liver, and your diaphragm. Behind your rib cage, behind your lungs, behind your heart. Feeling into your shoulder blades and your collarbone. And up into your neck. Maybe giving your neck a little bit more attention, just looking for a bit of space in the back of your neck. Sometimes supports us to feel like the top of our head is lifting up, and allow your chin to ever so slightly tilt down, just looking for space in the back of your neck. Exploring your forehead, scalp, eyes, ears, nose, cheeks, jowl and jaw, lips, teeth and tongue. Having some sense of your face as a whole and your head as a whole, your head as part of your body. Feeling the connection between your head and your body, those big muscles either side of your neck. Into your shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists and hands. And following your breath in through your nose, down through your throat, into your lungs, around your heart area. And just having a sense of the air of your breath, really enjoying the experience and noticing the air of your breath moving into and leaving your body, filling your lungs up and emptying out from your lungs. and feeling how your body breathes, how the muscles in your rib cage move. Maybe noticing if you're breathing into the top of your lungs, the middle, maybe the bottom of your rib cage. Maybe some movement into the sides of your rib cage. On a good day, maybe there's even a little bit of movement into the back of your rib cage as well. Just trusting what you do notice. And feeling into your belly, can you feel your breath beginning and ending as you move into your belly? It's a big muscle called your diaphragm. As if you're pulling the air into your body and then releasing the air from your body, from your belly. Just taking a moment, can I get a sense of myself overall as a whole? Just allow yourself to take up the whole of your space, the whole of your body. Just beginning to move into the first stage of the metta bhavana. So feeling this connection with yourself. Just spent a bit of time being with yourself. Maybe there's some part of your body that you feel more at home in. And just beginning to wish yourself well. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. And just notice whatever the response is. Trust whatever the response is. Just leaning into that wish a little bit more, trusting the wish just a little bit more. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. deeply trusting whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm experiencing, exactly the thing that I need to experience now. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. Staying with the metta, moving into the second stage. So the metta for ourselves is still there, still with us. And we begin to include a good friend. Just noticing who arrives today, right now. Maybe you notice their name, maybe it's a memory of them. Maybe it's the sense of what it's like to sit next to them or near them. However you connect, trusting yourself to connect with this person. And dropping in the wish. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. Whatever response we have is enough. Whatever response we're having is exactly the one we're supposed to be having. And dropping in the wish again, just trusting whatever arises. Wishing our friend, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. Moving on to the third stage. So as well as the metta for yourself and for your good friend, now beginning to bring to mind a neutral person, somebody who you know and you don't feel particularly strongly either way about. And just having some sense of them, beginning to have some interest in who they are as a person. And beginning to drop the wish in. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. to the fourth stage. So bringing to mind somebody who you find difficult. Just noticing how you feel as you bring them to mind. Sometimes in this part of the practice it's just about how can I take care of myself as I'm having this experience. That's usually a pretty helpful thing to do when you're meeting somebody who's difficult. How can I take care of myself? And just seeing what it feels like to drop the wish in. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. Just being interested, just being curious. Whatever the response is, it's exactly the response you need to have. Maybe breathing into this wish a little bit more. Maybe even trying to expect a little bit less from ourselves, and just noticing what response we do have. Just wishing the difficult person, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. Moving on to the fifth stage. So just having some sense of a connection with yourself, your good friend, your neutral person, and the person you're finding difficult at the moment. Maybe a sense of all four of you sitting around together. I'm beginning to wish all of you well, equally strongly, equally powerfully. Just trusting what you've created and sharing it equally amongst all four of these people. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all be free from suffering. And beginning to share this metta, this well-wishing, with more people. Maybe the people here in the room with you right now, loved ones and family members, and people at home, people who are part of the communities that you have some connection with, maybe work colleagues, maybe people you hang out and share hobbies with. Just connecting. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all be free from suffering. And just allowing this wish to spill out and shared with more and more people, more and more life. Breathing in a little bit more deeply, trusting even more deeply. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all be free from suffering. Just let go of any effort you're making. Allow yourself to rest in this experience you've created. It's almost like a river that's flowing on. Allow yourself to be carried forwards and along by this experience. Allow it to unfold in whatever way it wants to. own time, there's no rush. Beginning to bring the practice to a close.
I had some thoughts about what we was going to talk about this time, and primarily was driven by listening to somebody, well, a chap who used to be chairman here, give a talk on the radio, like thought for the day, and it basically was one of the things he was saying was that fundamental Buddhist teaching, or the first thing the Buddha taught when he was enlightened, was about suffering, and that suffering is our not being able to, or not an ability to be with our experience. Yeah. And I'm going to have to do something with that sound because that doesn't sound like they're going to come through, but we'll wait for, sorry online people, we're not going to be able to hear you for a moment, but we'll fix that in due course. So this idea that suffering, our suffering, is our ability not to be with our experience, not being able to be with our experience. And in a way, that's the whole of the Buddhist teaching. That's what Buddha talked about, yeah? And we're not able to be with our experience because we have preferences, or we have likes and dislikes, yeah? We have ideas about how things should be, and we have ideas about how we should be. And they all get in the way of actually just being with what's going on. Does that make sense? Yeah. So Buddhism, in a way, it's not about changing the world, although obviously that might come about by practice, because that's impossible. We can't change the world to make ourselves feel good. It's impossible. Yeah. We try and do it, we try and change ourselves, we try and change our conditions to try and set ourselves up so that things are all okay. But actually, if you really look, it just doesn't work. So the Buddhist approach is to change how we respond to our experience. And that's really what we've got something to say about, is how we respond to experience. Yeah. We can change how we respond to experience. Yeah. And in a way, that's what the Buddhist teaching is about. So we're talking about this teaching of Sila, Samadhi, Pragma, ethics, meditation, wisdom, this kind of Buddhist path. Yeah? And they all seem very different. We've been going on about, for quite a few months actually, about ethics, how we act in the world, how we engage with people, respond, our interconnection with the world, yeah, and how we can develop more skillful ways of being, more helpful ways of being in relationship to ourselves and the world. In meditation, we're just more focusing on ourselves, our mental states in a way. And in understanding, we are coming into relationship with our views and our concepts about how things are. So, but in each of those, we're doing the same thing. We're practicing, we're trying to look at how we come into relationship with the world. Yeah. And in particular, it's quite strong with meditation, because we're sitting down and we're looking directly or feeling directly about how we come in relationship to ourselves and the world. Okay? So and they're all, in a way, they're all connected. But obviously they're all connected, we're all connected. So with actions, when we act skillfully, or easily in the world, that helps our mental states. And so when we sit down to meditate, we obviously find it easier because we are more able to be with ourselves. Yeah. Practicing meditation and practicing the ability to be with ourselves more fully, more deeply, allows us to be with the world more fully, more deeply, and to act in the world more appropriately. Yeah. So you can see quite a direct link between ethics, between acting, how we act in the world, and our mental states, how we are able to be with ourselves. Yeah. In a way, wisdom is just a refinement of that understanding how we are with ourselves in relationship to the world through quite subtle views, concepts, perceptions we have about how things are. So it's just another level of refinement. So I want to just focus on this idea of being with ourselves in meditation. In a way, that's what we're practicing. Whatever practice we're doing, we're practicing this ability to, whether it's mindfulness or meditation, is to come and actually feel and connect and actually be with ourselves. And that's more difficult than it is for me just to say. Being with ourselves is quite difficult, fully. It takes quite a years and it's quite subtle. I mean, the two things that we teach is to be able to be with ourselves is awareness, but within that idea of awareness there's quite subtle nuances which I want to just bring out a little bit. And one is this idea of not knowing and an ability to be curious about our experience and not really understand it, and to be open and to be receptive to it. Yeah. And the other area I want to talk about is just tenderness. You know, to be able to be aware, you've actually got to start to be quite tender with yourself and to be able to open up and feel and experience bits of yourself that maybe, you know, we close down to during our normal day. Yeah. So this kind of awareness and tenderness and awareness is quite critical, this kind of being open and tender at the same time in our practice. Yeah. Okay, I just want to bring in that kind of more subtlety again, just in an area of we can think about it in our meditation is that we're listening. Now, there's a difference between listening and hearing. Yeah. When we're listening to something or our experience or ourselves, we're not knowing what's there. We don't know what's there. Yeah. We're in that mode of perceiving our experience, perceiving what's there. As soon as we hear something, we're already into a frame of, oh, that's a car. I'm hearing a car. I'm hearing the rain. I'm hearing this. We've already got a framework. Yeah. And in that way, we've kind of closed down to that sound and we've stopped listening to other bits of ourselves. Does that make sense? Or listening to what might else be there. Does that make sense? So in meditation, what we're trying to get is this sense of listening to ourselves with this kind of tenderness. Listening to, maybe noise, but also ourselves, our feelings, our things. There's a kind of tender listening that goes on in an ability to start to bring ourselves to fully to our experience. Okay, so I'm going to have to, for people online, I'm just going to slip away for a moment and make sure we've got our microphone so we can hear you. And we're going to open up to a series of questions and just online and just ask if there's any questions in the room or online. Do we dare try the roving mic?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shall I join me to do that?
Let's you can just start here. Just see what we can do with this for a moment.
This is where Zoom is too helpful because there's lots of different options about which microphone and which speakers you use, and then it gets confused about which one it's supposed to be using.
Okay,
So we're just reminding it.
we'll just, sorry. Should we say? Can we hear you online for a moment, Jim? No.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
And we can hear you. Yeah, great.
Okay, so that's working. So then, basically, I think basically about
Need this.
so, yes, it's all coming through here now. So we just need to hold it carefully and look at the camera, and hopefully, there's so much to do being with our experience, isn't there? So we've said quite a lot, but primarily I want to just focus on this idea of being with our experience and what does that feel like? Is it real? So I just wanted, if there's any questions or comments about that feeling and being with our experience.
Don't have a question,
Yeah.
but I think it was interesting that you were talking about being with your experience. Because today I found it quite difficult actually, for the first time in a while, to actually be there. Had loads of physical sensations and pains and aches, and just felt super uncomfortable. But what I've noticed afterwards was that probably because I've had quite a long practice for myself now, I've actually was okay with being there and feeling all these aches and pains, and when I say it was difficult, it was just different, I think, again, and I think it's so interesting to see the progression of meditation practice upon that experience.
It's a really good point, isn't it? Because did everybody online hear that? Yep, thanks. It's a really good point, isn't it? Because we tend to think meditation should be easy and feel good, but actually when it's, sometimes we label it difficult. Yeah, but when we struggle sometimes to stay with our experience. Yeah, we struggle. And that's for all kinds of reasons, but it's this process of learning and staying with and being kind to ourselves that actually, sometimes, something was going on for me this week, and I sat down and it was like there was a block of rock there, basically. And slowly and surely, you just learn to be, I was staying with it. Now, it didn't fly, the meditation, but actually I felt better afterwards. Yeah, I felt better afterwards because I was a little bit more in touch with myself. And sometimes that's all we need to do. Yeah, so it's that kind of, it can be quite difficult, this kind of staying with ourselves. We tend to fly off or have difficulty, if there's something, and I'll come into that a little bit more, but any other kind of comments or, does anybody else have that similar? It's okay, I think.
I was going to ask, how do you sort of know when to, if you're suffering, you spoke a bit about suffering at the beginning, how do you know when that should be a trigger for some form of action? And how do you know whether it's something that you just need to come to terms with? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I'll go with that one. I'm just, the first thing I'm noticing about the way you're framing the question, so the question essentially is, if I'm suffering, how do I know if I just need to be with the suffering, and how do I know when I need to act? Well, it's not an either or, is it? Yeah, it's like, it's quite important that we don't kind of polarize that into, well, either I've just got to sit here and suffer, or I've got to get up and do something about it. It might be both. Yeah. And something about, kind of very simply, it's like, you know, things like anxiety. Yeah, if I'm feeling anxious, I know in my experience that's probably not a great place to make a decision about something. Yeah, so I'm feeling anxious right now. One of the first things to do is be with my anxiety. And then after I've spent some time being anxious and being consciously feeling through that and what I'm anxious about, then I might be in a better place to do something to respond. Yeah. So these two things, they interact with each other. And equally, there might be times where it's like, actually just do something and then I'll feel better. That might be a way to be with, you know, what's going on responsibly. I think the difference is about being mindful, not just reacting. Yeah. Do I need to sit down and be with my feelings for 20 minutes or even an hour? Or actually, is actually just being aware of it right now enough for me to know I need to act? Yeah. I think maybe if I lean into what I'm wondering about the question, I'm wondering about times when we feel stuck or paralyzed, when it's not immediately obvious what to do about something. And actually the feeling of like, is it going to be worse if I'm stuck here for a long time? And that can be a very difficult experience to be with. It kind of resonates with, I think, with what Vajramitra was saying about the unknowns. I don't know what to do about this yet. I feel stuck. I feel paralyzed. Can I stay in here long enough with this experience so that I can begin to get some sense of what my next step might be?
Can I just add two things? So that's great, thank you. I'll just add two things. Is a little bit, it's just saying simply what's being said there a little bit, is that sometimes we just need to stay with it and find out and trust that the answer will come. And the second thing is, we won't always get it right. Yeah. So, and that's fine. Actually, you could try something and it may work and it may not. But what meditation is directing us to is finding out for ourselves, yeah, what works. And this may work, that may work, but it's learning process. And getting it wrong is as important as getting it right. If wrong or right are allowed to be in the room, if you see what I mean. So yeah, so there's no duality in terms of, you know, do we try and do something about it, or do we try and sit with it? Sometimes trying to sit with it until we know, but that takes quite a lot of patience, I find. Sometimes I sit with things and I don't know for a week or two, you know, and it's uncomfortable sometimes, you know, but that's okay as well. So it's about finding out what works for you in a way. Yeah. But I wouldn't rush to find out.
But Vajramitra, can we
Yep.
field some questions online? Pauline's got a question. Pauline, if you want to unmute yourself. And
I'm not sure what it's a question. I just had a thought that helps me and helped me in this meditation today, when faced with that duality, which crops up all over the place. I think I'm feeling trapped or feeling panicky or stuck or unhappy, uncomfortable. Remembering that it's not just up to me to make a decision as to how to be. If I wait, things might change of their own accord. It's easy to just forget that, actually, because I had an experience in this meditation of experiencing the metta bhavana in a much freer, easier way, for a period of time anyway, because I was able to make connections between things that I often don't realize I'm not allowing myself to do. I'm not allowing it to happen. So I just wanted to make the point about, just to round off, to make the point about, sometimes I feel I have an assumption that it's all up to me to make decisions and to do the right thing, when in fact, if I wait, the situation, my experience evolves, nothing stays the same, so things change of their own accord, maybe in a good direction or a bad direction. Anyway, I said enough, but yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Pauline. Yeah. It just reminded me, when you're talking about that change that went on for you, how very subtle we are as people. And part of the meditation is just kind of over years, and I might say over years, of just allowing ourselves to drop in. Sometimes we don't know what's holding us back or holding us out from being more fully, deeply ourselves. And it's that process of just quietly, with awareness, with tenderness, finding out. Yeah. And as Pauline was alluding to there, sometimes you'll just have a different experience, and that you'll think, oh, there's that bit of me I don't allow, or, oh, there's this bit of me. Yeah. Or I do this, and that's a bit of a pattern. Or I meditate in this habitual way, but actually, if I just drop in and learn a little bit from that, and often that is about this area of tenderness and receptivity towards ourselves. But it's not something you can force. It's not something you can push it into. It's your work as a counsellor. It means very much, isn't it? You're just kind of opening a dialogue with yourself.
Very good context to demonstrate. Yeah. Yes, there's quite a lot of stuckness in therapy. I can attest to that as having been a client, as a kind of a therapist. I was curious, isn't it? I feels very much about unknowns. I mean, God, we're swimming in them at the moment, aren't we? I mean, it's so absurd, kind of all the things that this morning, just for me, getting up and getting here, there was a bunch of things that I knew what was going to happen, but I was very aware of all the things I didn't know along the way, which is probably true every single day, even before all this strange situation. But I've been very aware of it at the moment. And something about that being a daily experience at the moment, like, can I do this? What can I do? How much? So I just kind of, it feels like it fits in the conversation right here, right now. I imagine we're all struggling with this on some level or not. Yeah. It's difficult, and there's not a lot to be said. I suppose I notice what I want to do is better take the experience away. It's interesting, my rescuer kicks in. And of course, that's what we're living with at the moment, is we're having conversation with people a lot of the time. I'm certainly having conversation with people a lot of the time where I can't fix it. I can't make a suggestion about something that's easy that people can do. I'm having a lot of conversation with people who are feeling like, well, there's all these things I want to be able to do and I can't do them at the moment. At the same time, trying to find a way to be tender, to be open to, well, is there a conversation? Is there a meaningful response I can have in the middle of all of this that doesn't try and fix it? I think that feels very much like quite often what we're doing in meditation.
So what I thought we might do is just take a question. One more question then before we move on.
This is a bit of a deep one. What can we do in sort of helping ourselves keep that tenderness, or remind ourselves to stay tender when we are really struggling, say, like with someone who is like being abused, and you want to help him do something, but you can't, like, also the invitation is to sit with it. I mean, how do you have any thoughts on how to remain soft there?
Well, I think for me, it's practice, but it's not easy. I mean, it's not as acute situation as you're describing, but I find in my daily life, I cut off, and my practice is about coming back and opening up and opening up to this tenderness. there are situations in life which are really difficult. And staying open to them and tend to them is quite a task. So, you know, it's not easy. It isn't easy. But there's an answer there somewhere, I think, in the Buddhist path. But at the moment, I'm still struggling with that one.
Was it something particularly about trying to stay in a relationship with someone if I think they're in an abusive situation?
Yes, it's being close to someone who is suffering or in living abuse and how to be with that mindfully.
Right. I find it almost excruciatingly unbearable. And I think the first question quite often is, how do I take care of myself? Yeah, because that kind of experience, that kind of relationship with somebody, there is no way that that can't have an impact on me. And if I don't take care of that, then I'm just going to add to the mess. And that can be quite difficult to kind of put yourself first in a way. You know, you need to have a boundary around that so that you can stay engaged if you choose to. Something about the theme that's coming up for me quite strongly at the moment is forgiveness. Whether it's forgiving myself or forgiving another person. And one of the things that's coming up quite strongly in the reading and the kind of reflecting that I'm doing is around this idea is that it's almost impossible to choose to forgive someone. It's almost like we have to pray. It's, yeah, so it's something that's given to us mysteriously. You know, it's like, and at the same time, if you're going to hang on in a situation that feels so messy and so painful, you know, if there's something around somebody suffering, but also maybe also abusing, can I find some way to forgive their behavior? Yeah, and in Buddhism, maybe that might be more straightforwardly connected with compassion. It's like, where is this anger and this pain coming from? And how comes this person is choosing to behave like this? Yeah.
It's a question which has got a lot in it, hasn't it? But thanks. Thank you very much. It's very difficult. Okay, what I wanted just to revert to now is a little exercise where really I just want you, we're just going to sit for a moment, about 5 minutes maybe, and I just want you to reflect on, just ask yourself, well, actually, I'll lead through it. So what we're lead through it. So getting yourself comfortable in the meditation posture, or what you feel comfortable with. I want you just to start to connect with yourself, your body. So you're starting to feel, connect with your body. You can feel your contact with the ground, the seat or the cushions. The torso. Neck, throat, head and the face. I want you just to turn your attention to listening to obviously both the sounds, but also listening to yourself, as in the physical sensations, the kind of feeling tones. So just have that practice of listening, being open to your experience. See if we can just get a sense of the experience of just listening, not having to know or label but just that sensation of pure aesthetic experiencing, feeling, listening, opening. You may be listening to movements or tensions in the body, listening to the back of your head. Being open and listening to the sensations on the face, listening to the whole of yourselves. And as we bring that awareness, that kind of listening, soft awareness to ourselves, just noticing what it feels like. Looking for a sense of tenderness such that we may even just drop a level, allow the belly to relax, just drop into this tender listening, allowing ourselves to be, to relax, to deepen into an experience of being here. Awareness, unknown, tenderness. And while we sit, if you're finding it difficult to be with yourself, I just want you to notice if there's anything particular that's stopping you or holding you back from being more deeply connected to yourself. Feeling the body, being tender to your experience. And noticing if there's anything that holds you from being more deeply, more relaxed, more connected. Okay. So we're just going to move into some discussion groups. So people online, Jen's going to set you up into some discussion groups online. So if you want to do that now, Jen, that would be great. And in the room, maybe we could split into groups of 4, 3 or 4. So just turning your cushions around, maybe there's 4 there, there's 4 here, maybe 3 in the corner there. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'll zoom everyone off now into their different rooms. See you in about 15 minutes.
Bye.
We can hear you, can't we?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so we're just saying, is there anything that's come out of that discussion that you want to bring back to the main group?
I think for me, can you hear me?
Yep, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it's been really helpful tuning into the dialogue and meditations this morning, and they've been very apt because I felt disconnected from myself. I think a year and a half of feeling, pushing through, teaching, kind of all of a sudden in the last couple of weeks, I felt, a kind of collapse and a lot of tending and befriending, but not shifting and not knowing what I'm actually feeling. And the discussion, I felt other people were having similar, and I'm noticing other people are having similar experiences because of this never-ending uncertainty. And I woke up this morning thinking, I have to find courage. I really need to find a strength in myself at the moment. And it's not an outward strength of, teaching and doing the yoga and running groups and being with people. It's something much deeper that I feel I've lost a bit. And I know my practice gives me that too. Because I think the threat, fear, and the overwhelm, and I think a lot of people have experienced lots of different journeys in this last year and a half. I know for me, my mother died. I couldn't go back to New Zealand. There was an online Zoom. The whole thing was science fiction, really. And that takes quite a lot to equate and integrate into your psyche, into your daily life, even though we're trying to get on with it.
Yes, thanks, Pippa. That's fantastic. It's, there is just so much going on. And I think there's a transition period going on too. So we're kind of simulating what was there and taking on board new things. And somewhere we get left out of that all. Just one thing I would just pick up is this, the thing I realized, the more we can be with ourselves, the more we can be fully in the world. It's the more we can kind of learn to trust and be quite fully and deeply connect with ourselves, we can just do that in relationship to the world. And it's that dual process, isn't it, of kind of going deeper and trusting ourselves and being connected that enables, us just to be more fully in the world. And it's so much more rewarding than trying to judge it, juggle it, and to dodge it. It's just kind of, you can relax somewhere and be content. But I don't think, a lot of us need, I personally, working on, or metta is working on being okay with ourselves. Sorry, you had a point.
Yeah, I was just sort of ask you, so what does not being with your experience look like? How does that?
I think there's sorry, you've got to.
Yeah, we know what that looks like. The image that quite often comes up for me is, it's a slightly daft one, but one that's quite popular. So I always forget the artist's name, but the guy who does the guys in bowler hats with things, there's the really famous one, he's got an apple in front of his face. What's his name? Magritte. Rene Magritte. And there's this, I love them because there's this feeling like I want to get behind the apple. Yeah, I know there's somebody's face there. That's the first thought I have. There's somebody's face there. And actually the experience you're having is you're looking at an apple. That is what's happening. And I think quite often we get caught in this loop. This isn't what's supposed to be happening, something else. There's something going on behind there. And that's what I'm really supposed to be giving my attention to, is no, this experience of not being with myself. Yeah, that's the one I'm supposed to be interested in. If I can get interested in this kind of feeling of distraction, anxiety, feeling stuck, kind of like, feeling doubt, wondering what on earth's going on and why I'm here doing this right now, whatever it is, yeah, that is my experience right now. And if I could get interested in that rather than trying to get behind it, I'm actually being with myself. Yeah. Which I think probably leads to the sense that sometimes what we're given sometimes isn't very satisfying. Yeah. And in a sense that kind of invites us to kind of get interested in what is happening rather than move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Can I just add that by staying fully with those things that aren't very satisfying, it's only when we can stay with them that we move into the next, we can let go of it and move into the next thing. You know, so you stay looking at the apple and eventually you see the face behind in a way. Yeah. But it's staying. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. There's parts of us that can't, I also remembered by that thing with Donald Rumsfeld, isn't it? There's the knowings, you know when you're anxious and you're not going to be able to stay with your experience. You know when you're thinking about fish and chips and not being here. You know exactly what it feels like to be a bit more connected, and we forget about that. So there's parts of knowings. There's also a whole pile of unknowns, what it really feels like to be connected, and we don't know. And it's about being open. But the doorway is to be in this moment, this present, just like Khemajala was saying, being present with the anxiety, being present with the not being connected. That helps us move into more fully into our experience. Okay, that's a good place to stop.